Hello, this is Ajay Mandrai, and those of you who may not know me, I am the editor-in-chief of Journal of Global Marketing. And today it's my pleasure to introduce two of my friends, Raj Sethuraman and Dana Lascu. Dana will be interviewing Raj about the paper, a featured topic paper that Raj wrote for the Journal of Global Marketing. So let me begin with the introduction of Raj and then of Dana. Dr. Raj Sethuraman is the Harold Simmons Professor and Chair in Marketing at the Cox School of Business at SMU Dallas in Texas. Raj is a theologian. He received his PhD in marketing from Kellogg at Northwestern University. In fact, Raj and I overlapped in 1980s at Kellogg. So that's where we became friends. So I know him for over 35 years, actually. And Raj has been teaching, has taught 15 courses, notably marketing management, marketing research, database marketing, consumer insights, and marketing models. He has also written many cases in marketing and introduced several online teaching tools for which he was awarded the Eugene Byron Teaching Innovation Award in 2010. He has also taught in many executive programs in the US and abroad, various topics including brand equity, marketing mix strategies, and research for marketing decisions. Professor Sethuraman's research relates to national versus store brands, the competition among those, price advertising strategies, and brand equity using economic and econometric models. He has published articles in leading journals and won many research awards. So this is, I was very amused when I was reading and writing this stuff. So we have in marketing, say, 5 top journals. And those are Journal of Marketing, Journal of Marketing Research, Journal of Academy of Marketing Science, Marketing Science, and Journal of Consumer Research. And I would include the 6th one, Journal of Retailing as well. Out of the 6 journals, I think Raj has got Best Paper Award in 4 or 5 of them. So let me just read it out to you. John Little Award for the Best Paper in Journal of Academy of Marketing Science, Odell Award for the Best Paper in Journal of Marketing Research, William Davidson Award for the Best Paper in Journal of Retailing, Paul Green Award for the Best Paper in Journal of Marketing Research. So the list goes on. So Raj is a very special guy. Besides being on the editorial and advisory board of many reputed marketing journals, he has served as the marketing department chair at SMU Cox from 2008 to 2019, almost a dozen years. The executive director of its Center for Marketing Management Studies from 2009 to 2020, another 10 years or so. And as the editor-in-chief of the Journal of Retailing from 2017 to 2022. Though his research has defined insight from data-oriented perspective and introduced or popularized many new concepts and ideas in marketing, such as analytical generalizations, non-reasoned choices, palette as a choice driver. In fact, his FT paper is on that particular topic, which Dana and Raj will be talking about. And subtle marketing strategies and informed marketing, on which Raj, Sakshi, and Weng-Mark Lim we have written an editorial on that recently. He's currently a senior associate editor of Journal of Global Marketing. Dr. Sethuraman is active in consulting for commercial and nonprofit organizations. His consulting engagements include Budweiser, AB InBev, Samsung Telecommunications, KPMG Pete Marwick Law Firm, and the Center for Nonprofit Management. He's also the founder president of Charity Through Art. It's called CHART, Foundation. This nonprofit organization started in 2008 and is dedicated to raising money for the underprivileged by organizing dance and music performances. More details about Raj can be obtained from his website, www.profrajsethuraman.net. Next, I would like to introduce my dear friend and host of the podcast, Dr. Dana Lascu. Dana is Deputy Editor of the Journal of Global Marketing and Professor of Marketing at Robbins School of Business at the University of Richmond. I have known Dana for nearly 35 years also, since early 90s. She has a PhD in marketing from the University of South Carolina, a Master of International Management from Thunderbird School of Global Management, and a BA in English and French from the University of Arizona. At the University of Richmond, she served as the department chair for 12 years and has been active on numerous committees such as the tenure and promotion, strategic planning, faculty development, institutional review board, and many others. She has published more than 100 papers. Dana is prolific, and she has written several books. She has published in journals such as International Business Review, Journal of Business Research, International Marketing Review, European Journal of Marketing, and of course, Journal of Global Marketing. And she has authored several editions of two textbooks, International Marketing, running in 7th edition, published in 2022, and Marketing Essentials, running in 8th edition in 2024. That's the most recent one. Like I said, she is Deputy Editor of the Journal of Global Marketing, Regional Editor for the Journal of Global Business and Technology, and serves on the review board of several other journals. Dana has very special organizing skills. She has chaired international conferences all over the world, including Austria, Bermuda, Kenya, Hungary, Romania, Thailand, Turkey, Vietnam, among others. I think the most recent one was Vietnam, and I remember the conference she arranged in Romania at Black Sea, which I attended. She has served as a Fulbright Distinguished Chair in Austria and as a Fulbright Specialist in Mongolia, and as a consultant for companies such as Ford Motors Company, IDB North America, Equisource North America, Still, Yellow Book USA, and others. Dr. Lascu is a fellow and trustee of the Academy of Global Business Advancement and has received, among other awards, the Outstanding Faculty Award of the State Council of Higher Education of Virginia, the University of Richmond Distinguished Educator Award and Scholarly Activity Award, and an honorary doctor from Eider University, Mongolia. Wow. These two friends and colleagues are really special. So it'll be a fantastic interview, I think. With this, I hand it over to Dana. Dana, take it over. And I look forward to listening to the podcast when it is done. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ajay. Dr. Sethuraman, you have had a distinguished career at some of the top business schools, including the Indian Institute of Management, Kolkata, at Northwestern, Iowa, and now at Southern Methodist University. How have these diverse global academic environments shaped your approach to research?
First, thanks to Ajay, my mentor. I followed him 2 years after in the PhD program, so I know him for nearly 40 years, and his wife, the now who passed, Lalita Mandrai. And they are good friends of mine. And thanks to Sakshi for taking care of all this. And thanks to you, Dana, for starting this podcast, which is a sort of a new experience for me. But though I've published in many papers, published many papers in many journals. This is the first opportunity to have a journal podcast. I've had some podcasts on my own. So thank you all for doing this. So coming back to your question of how, first, thank you again for saying that my career is as an academic is distinguished. I don't think of it. I always try to be as good as the people who inspired me, including Ajay and others who I respect. But in terms of but I did go to some good institutions that includes IIM, which we call Indian Institute of Management, Calcutta, for my MBA, and Northwestern University for my PhD in marketing, and before that, Regional Engineering College, Trichy, and so forth. But how how my research approach evolved through my education at these institutions. I want to say a long-winded answer. Research, there are two aspects to research. One is the technical aspects, which you learn by programming, statistics, and yeah, I'm a quantitative researcher. If you're a behavior researcher, how to do experiments, and those the institutions teach you. Those are the technical aspects which you have to know to do good research. But there are also non-technical aspects, and these I learned throughout my life. And that's why, while my academic research, I'm an old guy, has lasted about 40 years, my life research started the day I was born. And so research broadly is collecting, analyzing, observing, interpreting the data, and you're a lifelong researcher. And through that process, you learn some non-technical aspects of research. And I was thinking about it, and I was thinking, well, we have the 4 P's of marketing: product, price, place, promotion. Everyone, we even in all our basic marketing or marketing principles courses, we talk about it. We have, I think, at least I have tried to follow in my approach to research 4 P's of research aspects, and that is passion. First, you have to have a passion for research, and that because we as researchers are independent entities. From a research standpoint, you may be asked to teach what you have to, but from a research standpoint, we are on our own, so we must have passion. The next is purpose. We must have a purpose for doing research. And the 3rd P is planning. Once you have a purpose, which we write in the form of research questions in our papers, we must plan how to do your research. And the last, which I'm experiencing more now than in the past, towards the latter part of my career, is persistence. We get so many, we think we have written the best research, but someone says this is the worst research I've seen, this is a bad research. So we have to persist. If you believe in it, you have to persist in. So these are the 4 P's: passion, purpose, planning, and persistence. And I think, learned these approaches, non-technical aspects to research from my life experiences, and which were refined while I was doing academic research at these, what you call top-notch institutes, which are top-notch institutions. And the reason I want to say is I want to give a shout out because of this lifelong to the high school that I was in. It was a military school, those days called Sainik School. And the motto of that military school was Kritakarya, which in Hindi or in English means can do. So this motto, even though there are a lot of challenges and struggles in your research and research approach. This can-do motto is something that has sustained me over time in executing my research as well. So I would attribute my research approach to the technical aspects of doing research that were from these institutions and the non-technical underlying, some of them are intrinsic characteristics, underlying characteristics that come about from your life experience, which are refined through these institutions. So that's a kind of a long-winded answer, but I really want to reflect on how I became a researcher. So thank you. If you had asked me 20 years ago if I was going to be a researcher, or 40, 50 years ago, if I was going to be a hardcore research, academic researcher, I would have laughed at them. I would probably not have agreed. But over time, and I love what I do as a researcher. And that's what's kept me going. So thank you, Dana, for asking me.
Thank you. Very interesting insights and very helpful for new PhDs and even for PhD students to reflect on and possibly project for their future careers. How have your experience at these institutions then influenced your perspectives on global marketing specifically?
So global marketing is interesting in the sense, one of the common things that I saw in all these institutions, and it goes back to, is diversity. And diversity itself is an unclear, diverse term. It may be a cliche in some places. It may be politically controversial as we are going through these days. What is diversity? But I was the chair of the diversity committee here at SMU several years back, or 2 decades back. And we even try to define what diversity means. Is it diversity? People are diverse in many areas. It may be diversity in gender, or males and females, and now we even have transgender and so many diversity in race, diversity in color, black, brown, white, yellow, and all, and diversity in even knowledge, diversity in some may be Dutch, some may be super brilliant, as we saw in some of our own PhD seminars and MBA classes as teachers. So diversity has a lot of dimensions. It's difficult to, but there is something called diversity in needs, and that it kind of goes across human beings. So I don't even think of people as diverse, that they all have the one commonality in that, at least in my mind, they're all human beings. They're homogeneous in that they are people, but they are heterogeneous. And that's how I think of diversity, heterogeneous in the needs that they express. And one diversity is diversity perhaps across regions, across culture, across races. And that's something we should develop, we should accept, understand, appreciate, and as marketers, develop marketing strategy. So it is the realization of diversity in these institutions that led me to believe that humans have heterogeneous needs, and that goes across cultural boundaries, geographic boundaries, different countries across the globe. And that's why I said, well, I have to spend some time understanding the needs of the global market and how we can cater to them.
Excellent. Thank you. In what ways has your research contributed to or evolved your understanding then of global marketing trends and challenges?
So that's it is interesting that I wrote my first research paper even before I joined these institutions. After my MBA, which was in IIM Calcutta, Indian Institute of Management, I was previously a chemical engineer. And in MBA, I said I should do something that people will benefit from through my understanding. And I got into marketing and operations research and so forth. Then after that, I wanted to combine my knowledge of engineering, chemical engineering, and marketing. So I became a marketing analyst with Exxon Chemicals, which is a part of Exxon Corporation, which was the largest firm in terms of sales at that time. It's the Exxon Oil Corporation. You may have seen Exxon gas stations. So Exxon had a chemical wing, and in the what we called Asia Pacific region. It was headquartered in Hong Kong, and we had spent time in Japan for technical service and so forth. And the reason I'm saying that is that's when I wrote the first public research paper. It wasn't published. It was supposed to be in Business Week, but research paper on global pricing. Then I realized that it is not what I've written is scratching the surface. So it is not substantial understanding from which I wrote what the solutions are. And so these institutions helped me elevate the nature of so I was interested in global marketing right from the time I started working. These institutions help me elevate the level of research, quality of research that I did in global marketing. So that's what I owe to them.
Interesting, also very interesting background. Let's move on to the article. And in that sense, could you please discuss global choice behavior as a phenomenon that transcends cultural as well as geographic boundaries?
Yeah. In fact, as I said, I did my PhD in marketing at Northwestern University, which at that time was considered the go-to place or mecca of marketing. There were there were several. Two of them were Philip Kotler, who was my advisor, who started marketing, supposedly wrote the first book. And the other is Sidney Levy. Some of you may know, he was the guru of those days. Marketing was a combination of economics on the quantitative side and sociology, psychology, anthropology on the behavioral side. It hadn't developed. We're talking about early 80s. So I took my first seminar with Sid Levy on marketplace behavior. He had written the book Global Marketplace Behavior. And that was the time there is a festival called Holi, Holi, not Holy, Holi festival in India, where people apply color powder to people and to their friends, family members, as well as those who are going around having fun. And so it was a holy festival we talked about, Sid Levy and I talked about, and then we realized that there are certain colors that express fun or frolic or joy, and that perception of color is not exclusive to what we call Indian people. It is there even in all cultures across geographic boundaries. So, for instance, we think we don't have to. We think as we drive, red means stop, yellow means caution, green means go. That's just a perception of color. And we are used to that because we drive a lot. So the perception of color goes across boundaries. So which is that beneath everything that we see, there is a commonality. But how people perceive color may change with different cultures, or some may think of don't go for red or black, they consider poison, whatever it is. That is very cultural. In fact, on the one hand, red is in India, that's the color that they use to put on their foreheads. And I'm referring to India because I am familiar with that culture from my early life. So, but the underlying trait may be common, but as you go up in translating how that trait manifests, there may be differences. And we as marketers, and choice is one of them. So everybody makes choice to perhaps increase their happiness or something. And that is common, that goes across regional boundaries, cultural boundaries. But what makes them happy through the choice process is very different, both region and within the region, and even more so across regions. So I was interested in how people make global choice, and global choice is more fascinating because one, the differences are kind of implicit, and we have to be out with it in order to develop what they call adaptation. And so there was a strategy. Should you adapt to different cultures, or should you have one common marketing? So during that time, I was thinking about, well, it all depends on how people make choices. And so that driving force is what got me interested in pursuing global choice as one of my research topics.
Right. So speaking of choice, I found the choice scenarios that you selected particularly fascinating, especially because I personally could relate to them. Could you please elaborate on how you develop these different scenarios?
Yeah, thank you. It's interesting. I've written many papers in my long stint as an academic researcher. This is one of the papers that was directly inspired or motivated by a real example, real world scenario. And I was thinking whether I could get that. I'm holding that. And this is Kellogg. I will read it in case. Kellogg eyeing mega alliance with Haldirams. So this is what started this paper indirectly. So Kellogg is in the United States, it's the number one cereal company, or General Mills, where my daughter works, it is the number one cereal company with nearly $2 billion in sales, and they wanted to, which is another reason, going back to your previous question, there are two things that are making the globe smaller from a marketing standpoint. So now I could get materials, sell materials to someone in Timbuktu, hundreds of thousands of miles away, thanks to internet marketing online. So reaching or accessing people has become easier. And as a result, technology and companies are also becoming more global, multinational, Kellogg being one of them. So Kellogg, and the third is, or driving force, is that the market in the United States is somewhat maturing. So if you want growth, you have to go to countries outside of the United States. And India was one of the countries that had a lot of potential because they have 1.4 billion people or 1.2 billion people, and there's a lot of mouths to feed. And Kellogg being a cereal company that specializes in breakfast cereal or food or generally snack food, they tried to make inroads into the Indian market. And they did not succeed, which was because I would myself, when I rather have, when I am in India, have dosa, which is another breakfast item compared to Kellogg cereal. So that was, so Kellogg, what it did was maybe in order to penetrate the Indian market, they had good cash flow and decided they will acquire Haldiram's. And if you're familiar with the Indian market, Haldiram's is the #1 sweet and salted snack company in India. Of course, it had less in terms of dollar revenues, but it was the kind of household term, Haldiram sweets and Haldiram snacks and stuff. I've myself had that. So when Kellogg, which is a nutritious, healthy food company, tried to acquire Haldiram's, which is a fatty, unhealthy snack company, people were aghast. They said it is doomed to fail because it was a mismatch of two different kinds of firms, and the marriage of convenience and not marriage of mutual collaboration. So they thought Frito-Lay, where Dallas is located, which is done really well, should be the company that should acquire Haldiram's, if at all. But Kellogg's is making a huge mistake. So I, being a marketer, this is from my management institute, they wanted me to comment on whether that is a good idea. So and that's how I presented in Belgium first time after this is, and then I was a visiting scholar at UPenn, University of Pennsylvania, Wharton School. I presented in 2019. This happened in November 2018. The news came out. Of course, it didn't merge. So I presented in 2019 in Belgium and UPenn, Wharton 2020. And I said, and that's when I even started thinking conceptually on these lines, that no matter what, they're going to test whether it is Kellogg or Haldiram's or Kellogg plus Haldiram's. They're going to see whether it tastes good, and whether it is good quality and whether it's consistent, whether it's packaged well. So my thesis was they should go ahead with the merger without caring about what they should, whether it will hurt their brand image, because so long as they maintain the product quality well. So I tried to conceptualize the thought, and that's one of the reasons why the choice scenario 2 is about cereal versus dosa. And that did, to some extent, they may not agree, that cereal did not make heavy inroads in the Indian market because people preferred idli or dosa or whatever it is that they choose for breakfast as their thing to eat. And it was a cultural thing, perhaps. I don't eat Kellogg cereal, but I Quaker oat cereal. So that's my cultural thing, because, or need-based, or so I think and that was what led to the merger. On the one hand, it may be hard for cereal to penetrate the Indian market simply saying that they are healthy, because even though dosa is not healthy, and then I started to think about when this paper was being developed, I went around, I said, there are so many areas where I have experienced myself. So, for instance, I went to a steak place in Boston, and there were people, the family came about, and there were people who were ordering different kinds of steaks. There's no, and so I went with my cousin, and that's the same thing with, so some of them with the turbo convertible, which I have or I like, and that some of these are based on my own experiences. And there is now a Taylor Swift became a big thing when I was writing the paper. That was, I did not experience it, that choice scenario. And I know that a lot of my friends' daughters or sons went to the Taylor Swift concert paying $1,000 for it. And I was aghast. I said, yeah, who would ever pay $1,000 for a Taylor Swift concert? She's back in the news again because of Super Bowl this Sunday and stuff. So some of them were born from my experiences. It all started with the cereal dosa example, and some of them are based on what hearsay were hot news at that time.
Very interesting, yeah. So I totally relate to the Kellogg story. I would never consume any of those cereals. Give me a croissant anytime, but definitely not Kellogg's.
Oh,
So of course our experience is essential
yes,
in determining choice,
that
obviously.
is correct.
Thank you. Excellent examples. Can you please describe the complexity of palate, encompassing its physical, metaphorical, and psychological aspects?
So palette is, there are two things that we believe. This, as I said, was a conceptual thought piece. And I started to, and I'm a, as I said, a quantitative researcher. I work in the area of building analytical and empirical models, promotions, advertising, and so forth. And so this basic marketing problem helped me kind of be an armchair thinker of what it is that drives people to behave the way they do, which is very important, whether you model or a behavior person or, and it, I, there are two, we all operate in paradigms, and the paradigm that we operate in are two things. One, in marketing, especially with respect to choice. One, we make choices because we take any action because there is a problem, and we take that action as a solution to the problem. That is one dimension of that paradigm. And the second is that we take those actions with some rationale, and the solving that problem or solution to the problem is automatically becomes a rationale or a reason. And as I develop, and there are a lot of other people who have said that. Jerry Zaltman is one of them. Said that many first there we don't need a problem to trigger an action, trigger choice, and that's a kind of a myth, conventional thinking. And the second is we don't need a reason to make a choice. So those two went against traditional belief or conventional thinking, which was based on utilitarian, economic, rational way of thinking. And I wanted to say many of our decisions, including my own, why make a decision and stuff, including all the things that I'm doing, some of the things that I'm doing right now may not have a reason. So I wanted to kind of burst both these myths that actions need not emanate from a problem and actions need not be reasonable. And there was a lot of it, faced a lot of headwind, opposition, because it went against conventional thinking. So they said if utility is not driving them, then what is driving that? And that's when I came up with this idea of palette, which is a mindset, which is intrinsic. It doesn't need search, it doesn't need evaluation, and that's why the choice scenarios help me in refining my thinking on palette. And it doesn't need justification. You just do it. That's it. And so palette came from, as I expressed in the paper, came from a basic idea of taste, but taste that is elevated to the psychological dimension or more sophisticated dimensions. So I said palette may be something that people will understand. So my original paper, which I presented in Belgium and UPenn, has said palette-driven choice. Even the one that I submitted to JGM was palette-driven choice, and people didn't quite understand. Palette was still an obscure concept. They so, but it is an intrinsic mindset, and it is abstract mindset that drives you to do something without reasoning. And that may be hard to accept because we think we are all reasonable animals. Human beings are rational. So that's, and if you kind of look inward to your own actions, you may see many of the actions that you take may not be solid reasoning. Besides, well, I like doing that. And so that's, to me, that's not a reason. That's just as I explain in the paper also. So that's what palette was, a way of giving a conceptual underpinning to the utility idea that we already always had, pursuit of pleasure, which is the right of human beings in the United States and stuff. So that's how palette was born.
Fantastic. Thank you. So, how does palette function as a driver of choice compared to those traditional concepts used in the established choice models?
Yes, yeah, I have it that this was also asked during the review process, and it rightly so. I think it is when you're trying to go against conventional thinking, and it is true in many scientific advancements, including, for instance, Newton's law, which said mass can be neither created nor destroyed, and Einstein had to prove through his theory of relativity that matter can. That's how we have this nuclear fission and fusion bombs. So the point is, anytime you go against conventional thinking, people are going to oppose or kind of challenge that simply because they don't understand or because it is not intuitive. And so I had to distinguish between what typically, of course, they're all special cases of typically a utility-driven choice. In utility, you say you maximize utility, which can be broadly seen as pleasure, and you search the alternatives. You decide you have some constraints when maximizing utility because you can't pay the money, even though you want the best car there is, best vacation there is, you can't afford it, or you don't have the time for it, or you have children or other things, family considerations that you have to. So there are constraints. So the utility framework said that you search all alternatives, you find that which maximizes your utility subject to certain constraints. So that sort of implicitly, or sometimes we model it, sometimes we go through it implicitly in our mind. So that's the paradigm that were working on. So this palette as a paradigm said, you don't have to search, you just do it just do it. That's an IK thing, just do it. And the other upper somewhat related is that they said, well, if it's that obvious to me, a non-reason choice, as we call it, is then other people in marketing who've been doing eons of research for the last 50 years, or psychology even earlier, would they have come out with it? And so I had to distinguish between why non-reason choice is not emotional choice, no, is not intrinsic choice, is not internally driven choice, not internally, it is internally driven. So I had to come through impulsive choice. So I had to distinguish. So my point is there are so many ways. So there is rational choice, which is a good paradigm. There are deviations from rational choice. Satisficing choice is one of them. That says you choose the first available alternative. And there are so many choices that we work with. Non-reason choice is another one that we have to be aware of. We have to conceptually enrich it, and importantly, determine how we can, given that it is fairly extensively practiced in the global market, how can we address that choice as marketers?
Very interesting. Thank you. Let's move on to the end of the paper. I thought it was very interesting, your entire discussion of technology, using technology to uncover and better understand the nuances of consumer palate. Could you please elaborate on that?
Yes. It's palette. I was in marketing and choice. I introduced palette-driven choice. It had initial issues in terms of. I also introduced, to address non-reason palette-driven choice, I introduced another term called subtle marketing strategies. I'm not sure others may be able to change it. And the subtle marketing strategy, which I have seen many people in different cultures adopt it, is it says consumers in some cases may not have a reason to make their choices, a good reason or reason to make their choices. How do you, if you don't know the reason, how do you influence it? And that's what, and that has been happening. And this goes back to an old poem by Tennyson, who was a good poem writer, British writer. Yours not to reason why, yours but to do and die. This was a charge of the Light Brigade, which was a famous poem. And he says, you don't reason, you just act according to, it's very true in many military circles. So I use this term subtle marketing strategies to reflect the marketing aspects that you can do without necessarily probing for the reasons why people make choices. And the two reasons why we do that, one is the consumers may not have a reason, or even if they do, they may not be able to clearly state that. So I said, and at that time, early on, because of the prevalence of technology in reasoned choices like conjoint analysis and stuff, attribute, and we try to expand on the reasons, I thought technology is most suited for reasoned choices. And now, as I thought about it, developed, saw the evolution of technology, and I presented a paper in Geo in India on how technology in retailing, I'm a retail specialist, retailing can evolve. And a lot of these had to do with technology has evolved, has risen to the level of influencing people's behavior without necessarily knowing why they behave the way they do. And that is what subtle marketing strategy is about. So let's take Warby Parker, for instance. It's a well-known company that was born and where I was doing my research scholarship. That's when I came to know about in UPenn. And they give glasses. Glasses are very eyeglasses. I was wearing one myself. I just don't have it now. They were having eyeglasses cheaply because they could sell directly. So they would sell a sample of send a sample of eyeglasses. You choose the one you like and give the rest. So the subtle marketing strategy, they don't even want to know why you want that. You just choose it. And now technology has made Warby Parker itself have a virtual. So you could select 4. They don't even have to send it. They have a virtual place where you can try those glasses virtually and decide which one is good for them. So that is one example. Another example of subtle marketing to handle non-reason choices is sampling. So if you don't want to know the reason, you let the people sample or give the choice to the, and there are apps now, as I say in the paper, an insurance app, which all you have to do is put the name of your car, your birthday, or whatever it is, and it'll give you 60 insurance companies within 60 seconds, 1 minute. And so the possibilities are endless. And as it wasn't, at least I was not privy to that. The next is when DeepSeek or ChatGPT and all those AI, artificial intelligence can come about, get developed, and they are the ones who are going to be able to understand what you want or cater to what you want without exploring the reasons you want. And so I see a lot of promise and potential of technology in influencing non-reason choice, even though it is in your mind. But the important consideration, which I say in the first aspect of subtle marketing strategy, is that, and I am myself a marketing researcher, does survey analysis. Forget about asking people why they behave the way they do. Observe digitally or virtually or whatever physically what they do and act on that. So you give the benefit of doubt or the power of choice to the consumers and you act on it. And digital technology, digital marketing have done a lot of that. And we've been doing that for a long time ourselves. It's just that we have not done it in a systematic way.
Really fascinating and thought-provoking. Thank you, Dr. Sethuraman, for this excellent interview. I hope that Journal of Global Marketing readers are going to look at your article, read your article in detail. I truly enjoyed reading it, and I'm really, truly honored to have had the opportunity to conduct this interview with you. Thank you, and many thanks to Ajay Man Rai, the editor of our journal. Dr. Man Rai has been really instrumental in changing the path of our journal to really look at insightful research. And we're so glad that you were able to contribute a valuable
Thank you for the insightful
article.
questions also, Dana, which led me to give some answers.
And many thanks also to Sakshi for making this interview possible at a time that's very inconvenient for her in India. Thank you so much, Sakshi.
Thank you.